Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming my first guest from Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, Amanda Kruger herself, Beatrice Boepple. I can't wait. It's been a long time coming. And you may also remember her from Stakeout, Shoot to Kill, and she got to play the lead in a film called Quarantine, which mysteriously became her last film, and I'm going to find out why. And I can't wait. Like I said, it's been a long time coming, and I can't wait. So, here is my interview with Beatrice Boepple.
Hello, Tommy?
Yeah.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I am doing okay. Been a little bit of a crazy morning, but otherwise all is well. I'm here on the East Coast, and it's already afternoon, 12:30.
That is wonderful. It's such an honor. Thank you for taking the time today.
Alrighty.
So, going back in time, did you fall in love with acting early on?
Oh, I sure did. Since I was a little kid. I think acting, I kind of had a very, turbulent childhood. A lot of moving. My father died when I was little. We lived in Japan when I was little, so I was like the foreigner. And there was, Americans were not particularly popular with a lot of people because it was, not so long ago before that where they had Hiroshima bombing. So, I had a lot of different traumas and things and challenges. And acting, I started off, back in the day there was a show called Zoom. I think you're probably too young to remember Zoom. But anyway, they always featured kids from around the world and the camera would follow them in their day-to-day life. And so a lot of times when I was just hurting or whatever, I'd be alone, but I don't know why, but I would imagine that there was a camera watching me, and I guess it was reality TV before it ever existed. And somehow having the audience watching me, this imaginary audience, took me out of myself and would help me, and so I kind of got into it, and I started doing plays also from the time I was very little, even in Japan. Before I could speak Japanese, they had me play the animal, like the sheep in the manger scene or whatever like that. And then I started doing plays in school, and I found out that when I'm playing a character, the character can be anything. So, for example, if I felt ugly or whatever, but if the character was this beautiful, Juliet or something, for that time I'm Juliet, so I'm beautiful. Or, if the character's strong, I can be strong. I could, hide into these characters and become all the things that I didn't think I was or such. So, yeah, I've always loved acting since I was little.
Oh, wow. So you were in Japan through most of your childhood then?
Well, for 4 years, so from age 5 to 9. So those are pretty crucial in forming a person. And in fact, because when we moved to Japan, I was 5 years, I had just turned 5, so I would have been normally learning the alphabet. I mean, some kids learn it before, but I would have been learning to read and write, at 5. However, I learned to read and write Japanese first before I ever learned the alphabet. So when we came back to the U.S., and I was 9, I guess, fourth grade, I had to quickly catch up. And so Sesame Street and Electric Company and those kind of shows really helped me learn and catch up.
Nice. So after high school, did you go to New York to study acting?
No, so after high school, at that time, we lived all over the place, but at the time we ended up in Canada, in Vancouver, first in Vancouver Island, Victoria. My parents were teaching, so I went to the University of Victoria that had a great theater program. So I became a theater major and studied acting there. It was a toss-up for me at that time. The two careers that I was thinking of was either working with horses, which I love, or becoming an actor. And equestrian college were just way too expensive. So I ended up going to the local theater program and loved it and kept acting ever since. And that was Vancouver Island. So then when I finished my theater school, my training, I went to Vancouver, where so many TV series are shot and so many movies are shot. It was called Hollywood North at the time because so many things were filmed there. So it was great. You could get work, film, TV, radio, stage, you know. And so, and one of the things I loved about the acting community in Vancouver, and I think it's probably still that way, I'm not sure, was that actors were allowed to just be actors. We were allowed to be performers. You didn't have to be put into a niche like they do in Los Angeles. Los Angeles, you can only be, you know, a film star or a TV star, although now it's starting to shift. Now they're starting to do both. I see that a lot more. But back in the day, you were either only a TV actor or a film actor or a commercial actor or stage, and they wouldn't mix, you know. And even to the point that if you were in horror films, that's pretty much all they would let you do is horror films, or if you were in rom-coms or whatever, you know, they love to put people in a box. But in Canada, it was great because we got to do everything. Like one day you might play the leading role in a beautiful equity theater, and then the next day you might do a bit part, one line on a movie, and then the next day you do a radio show, and then the next day you do a leading part in a movie, and then the next time you're a guest star on TV. It's like you just work as an actor as much as you can do, and people didn't judge, you know, oh, you're doing a bit part, or oh, you're doing, you know. So we just got to do as much acting as we could. So it was a wonderful environment to be an actor in.
Yeah, I've interviewed so many Canadians. They are the nicest people, and they have absolutely no shame when it comes to their sense of humor.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I love Canadians. Beautiful people, and also very humble too. My guess would be if you've interviewed Canadians, it's like pulling teeth to get them to brag.
Yeah.
You know, it's not. You know, it's very different. People are very humble for the most part.
Yeah, I love them. So you started working in Canada. You did a couple episodes of a Canadian series called The Beachcombers.
Yeah, that's a in Canada. It's like I think it was. I'm sure it's not on the air now, but it was the longest running TV series at the time, and very, very well known in Canada. The main star was this actor named Bruno Gerussi, you know, and he was this, you know, pretty famous in Canada. Sweet show, beautiful show. And actually, it was on that TV show. That's where I had my first, you know, big role. I was the guest star role that I did on that show. I played a girl who thought she was his daughter, the star's daughter. So it was actually quite emotional, and I got my first lesson in editing, the power of editing, and how the editor really on film and TV has the final word on how the show looks and also how your performance is, because, you know, it's how they choose what clips they choose to put together and in what context that can really make a character. I mean, you know, if you edit things together in some strange way, you can make anybody be doing anything, right? I mean, it's pretty powerful and pretty amazing.
Yeah, I never saw that series, but I'm intrigued by it, especially the title.
Yeah, Beachcombers. Yeah, it's Vancouver Island and that area is all beach. But in terms of that, the editing thing was what happened. For example, was that in one scene, I'm being told that my mother's dead, and I inside my character knew it, but she was in denial of it and couldn't deal with it. So I played it the first time, and I thought the director also wanted it, that she was being kind of strong and, you know, kind of laughing it off, like, oh, no, she's not. No, she's not. No, my mom's not dead. And it takes quite a few times of repeating that until it really starts to hit and sink in, and then she breaks down and cries. And that's the way we filmed it, and it was a very powerful scene. And I remember, you know, just feeling just the emotion of it afterwards. But when I watched the final cut, he took one of my reactions from another scene where I kind of am like, what? Like I hear this news and my face is kind of looking shocked. And then it cut right to me crying, which is very different. Like that's not the performance I gave, and it changes the character too, right? Like if your mom's dead and it's like, oh, you know, and you start crying. It's very different than somebody kind of in denial. You know, maybe they did it because of time, you know, who knows, like they needed to. But it just showed me how, wow, they can make a completely different thing by doing that, which, dear listeners, it also means don't believe everything you see, especially on on the internet because they can put somebody's face or somebody saying something in completely wrong context.
Right.
Or just, don't believe everything you see.
Yeah. I remember very well seeing you, though, in Stakeout.
Oh, yes. Fun. That was a great film. And, I mean, those guys I love both Emilio Estevez and Richard Dreyfuss. Both really, really wonderful, like in person, wonderful guys, really down to earth. Emilio's more on the shy side, but he's such a really great guy. And in fact, he's one of the few people that I've really kept in contact with, for such a long time since then. But that was a great fun movie to work on. And in fact, there's what I wouldn't give to have stuff that was on their cutting room floor, because there was one scene where Emilio's in bed and Richard Dreyfuss calls him to say that his girlfriend walked out on him. And I come into the bedroom and I'm talking to Emilio, and Dreyfuss says, kiss Carol for me. I'm like, my name's Carol. And then Emilio kisses me, and then Richard says, no, lower. And then hangs up, like kind of it was his joke. He just threw that in, kiss her lower. But so I get into bed with Emilio, but while we were filming, Richard Dreyfuss, and this shows what a great guy he is. Usually big stars, big name stars like that, if it's just a few lines off camera, they'll record it for their shoot, but they often won't even show up, and it'll be somebody off the screen reading it. You know what I mean? Saying?
Yeah.
Emilio's hearing it on the phone, but so somebody off screen will just say Richard Dreyfuss's part, so that the main star doesn't have to even be there. But he came on that day, even though it was our shoot, it was our close-up, and he sat there and read the lines offline for us. So on one take, I'm in bed with Emilio after he hangs up, and then suddenly comes running off from off screen. Richard Dreyfuss comes running into the room and goes, "Banzai, threesome!" And he jumps in on the other side. And then John Badham, who was the director, came running in and jumped into bed too. So I was in bed with Richard Dreyfuss, Emilio Estevez, and John Badham all at once. I'm like, wow, what I wouldn't have given to have a photo of that, or or even better to have, because the camera was rolling because they didn't realize he was going to do it. So yeah. I'm sure somebody threw it away. I mean, if somebody ever kept it, that would be amazing.
Yeah. I remember when the movie came out, the critics who dismissed it called it Stakeout.
Oh, you're kidding. Well, that must have been for the second one. They wouldn't have. I think the first one was a big hit.
Yeah. Oh, it was a big hit.
Yeah. The second one, I got to admit, I never saw the second one. I refused to. I boycotted it because they didn't cast me again.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if they even mentioned his wife. Like, does that character even show up? But I haven't seen it because I wasn't in it. So I'm not going to see it.
Yeah, the second one is terrible because you're not in it.
That's right. Thank you there.
Absolutely.
Actually, so I would imagine that was the one that was stink up. Because the first one was actually really, really good, and it got good reviews. Well, because I think it was one of the I think it was the first buddy, cop buddy film where it's that combination of drama and comedy. Because it was mostly funny, but also it had a dramatic plot going on.
Yeah, it came out the same time as Lethal Weapon. And Jim Quoth, oh God, he's the most underrated screenwriter of the 80s, in my opinion. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And also, so Aidan Quinn was the bad guy in that. And he actually goes to the same massage therapist as I do. So it's kind of funny, because often when I go to see her, she'll be like, oh, Aidan was just on the same bed.
Wow. So you got your first taste of playing a nun in Shoot to Kill. Yes.
Well, that wasn't my first, but that was my first screen thing. It's funny, I keep getting nuns because, so when I was really younger, I was in a play. My first show was, what was it called? Once a Catholic. Yeah, the play was called Once a Catholic. And actually in that, I didn't play a nun. I played a girl going to Catholic school with a bunch of nuns. But then in theater school and university, I was cast in two plays, and I was a nun in both of them. Well, Prima Miss Jean Brodie, I played a nun, and Agnes of God. Mm-hmm. So, I got to play. I'm always in nun's habits. And then and then Shoot to Kill. Yes, I was a nun with a wonderful actor, Blue Mankuma, who was we were both undercover cops, and he played a priest, I played a nun. Mm-hmm. Really, those were small parts, but it was fun. That was with Tom Berenger and Kirstie Alley and whoever else, I can't remember.
Sidney Poitier.
Yeah. What was that?
Sidney Poitier.
Oh yes, Sidney Poitier for sure. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was a real pleasure to meet him. There's been some icons. I mean, that's been one of the great things about being an actor and being an actor in Canada with so many films coming up there was getting to meet so many of these icons of the acting world.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Katharine Hepburn. That was amazing. I did a TV movie of the week with Katharine Hepburn, and this was an amazing thing. Usually with TV movies, actually at any movie, mm-hmm. you don't rehearse. Like you'll stand in front of the camera and do one or two run-throughs of that scene, but you never rehearse the whole play, the whole screenplay like right. you do in theater. However, with Katharine Hepburn, you do. So her production company had every member of the cast come to this church. We sat around a long table, just the way they do in theater, and we read through the entire script from beginning to end, whether you had one line saying yes ma'am or whatever, and we read it through like a play, which was such a cool experience. And I played the character of I had 3 scenes, I think it was. I was the secretary, her secretary at her agency. She was a writer. Mm-hmm. So I got to work with her, and she gave me an autograph book saying "Marvelous working with you, Beatrice," which was the coolest thing. She gave us the Making of African Queen, her book. Mm-hmm. But actually, that was an interesting incident for me because I was in 3 scenes. It was a lovely group to work with. I played this girl from Hoboken, New Jersey, which at the time I'd never even heard of, and yet now that's where my oldest son is going to college there. But anyway, so I get an invitation for the screening when it was all ready to go, the film. And like most people, I invited my agent and my boyfriend at the time to the screening. Mm-hmm. So we get there, and when we arrived, the 2 producers, who are really wonderful guys, they do all of her films, looked at me, and I saw this kind of stricken look come across their face when I arrived, and I kind of noted it, but I had no idea why. And then I go and I sit down, and we're watching the film, and just before my scene's about to come up, I'm kind of punching I nudge my boyfriend, like, okay, here it comes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't there. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. They cut it. I said, okay, well, just wait. There's another scene coming up. And then when that scene came up again, I nudged him. It's cut. And then the 3rd scene was cut. I'm like, what the hell? I was in tears. Like, so embarrassed. I'm in the movie theater crying in the dark because my scenes were completely cut. And usually if you get cut, they don't invite you to the screening. Yeah. They let you know that you've been cut or whatever. And I was just mortified. And so after the screening, I get up, I'm just like, stomping out, well, not stomping, kind of sneaking out of there because I just didn't want anyone to see my face. And the producers grabbed my arm, and I said, oh, we are so, so sorry. We're sorry this happened. You were the last scene to get cut. They were really cute bits. It was, your acting was great. And the little interaction with Katharine was so cute and funny. However, with all films, with everything, there's such a time constraint. We had to cut another 10 minutes off the script, and we realized that if we cut one scene with you, we had to cut them all because the through line wouldn't be there. And, it wasn't integral to the story, which I know it wasn't. Like, it was just a cute little thing, but it didn't add to the plot. So they had to cut it, but they said, we're so sorry, because normally they wouldn't have sent me an invitation, because that's an embarrassing thing to do, is show up and bring people and then you're not even in it. So, but I got to meet her, got to work with her, so no complaints there.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Did that lead to playing Amanda Kruger in Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child? Well,
the nun connection, I don't think so. But I got to say, it was such an interesting audition, unlike any I had before. At the time, I had moved to Los Angeles, And I had starred in these, 2 Canadian films, which probably nobody's seen or heard of, called Quarantine. Not the one that came out in, I don't know, about 10 years ago. This one came out in 89.
Right.
And then, so it's called Quarantine, and I'm the hero in that one. And then also Midnight Matinee or Matinee. It comes out under a lot of different names the same year. And I was able to get a pretty cool agent. She represented myself and Martin Sheen, of all things. So she said, there's this interview, there's an audition for this up-and-coming Australian director, Tommy. I want you to meet him and go do this, it's for Amanda Kruger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I go to the audition, and there was about 5 people there. They had me read the part, and as I'm reading her lines, they are kind of debating, now, is she alive? Like, is she alive? Is she a ghost? What? They couldn't even figure it out. And they were changing the script on a daily basis, too. I mean, literally, I still have the script. And there's pink pages, blue pages, yellow pages, because every time there's a new change to the script, they give you the rewrites in different colors. So I have this rainbow-colored script thing. If I've ever broke, that will go on eBay. But so they're trying to decide what she's going to be, and so we tried my voice in different ways. And I've always wanted to play a spooky character. I'd love to play a villain. I would love to play an evil, creepy woman, or a man. But anyway, I just kind of did these spooky voices, and then I sang for them because I always find little kids' voices so creepy, and they use the Elm Street with the girls and the jump rope and everything is such a nice, creepy image. So I did a few creepy nursery rhyme songs, and I don't know, they cast me there right on the spot, which has never happened before, like never. They always, say, thank you so much, that was great, and then they have a callback if they like you, and then they usually do then a screen test and blah, blah, blah. But they gave me the part right there and then.
You made such a pretty nun, I have to say.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's funny how many people said to me, oh, at the time anyway, how can you play Freddie's mom? You're too young. I'm like, what the heck? He's a baby when he's born.
Yeah.
I don't know why they thought, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, yes, Robert Englund, the actor, is older than me, of course, but not as Freddie and not as a baby. When he was born, he was a baby. My cute little guy. Wasn't he adorable in Elm Street 5? That little face?
Yeah.
Wish I had gotten that little puppety thing.
Yeah, they had to suspend disbelief. Were you a fan of the series, or was it just a job to you?
Well, I had seen, of course I saw the first one, iconic one. And then, okay, don't hate me, folks. I'm not a horror fan. I'm not. I like ghost stories, like spooky stories, but I'm kind of a little squeamish with guts and gore, so no, I don't see a lot of them. I've often, well, at least when I was in high school, I saw the first Halloween, the first Elm Street, the first, what else?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Chainsaw. Oh, you know what? I don't think I actually ever saw Chainsaw Massacre. Okay, now I'm going to lose all my fans, right?
It's not as brutal as people say it is.
What was that one? You know which one? It was my friends and I all loved to be creeped out by was The Brood.
Oh, yeah.
Cronenberg?
David Cronenberg, yeah.
Yeah. And for some reason, then, so my in high school, we called ourselves The Brood, my little group, with all that creepy stuff. But I loved, because I grew up in the 60s and 70s where, there were so many great creepy ghost stories where so much is left in your imagination, and to me, which is way worse. I mean, it's way creepier, like when you're imagining what's going to happen behind the door, or you're imagining what's happening, behind the curtain. And I don't know, to me, that's a lot more chilling than just seeing the blood and guts, to each his own. But so I was more into the psychological, creepy, scary stories.
Wow.
Not so much the out-and-out gore. So no, I was not a huge fan, but I have to say, though, I mean, and then at the time I had no idea what a huge icon he was going to be, Freddy Krueger. But it was, of course, I knew what Nightmare on Elm Street was. I had seen it, and the first one, and it was really, really cool. And seeing the sets was amazing. I mean, they did, just a really wild job on Elm Street 5. I know it's most people's least favorite for a lot of fans for some reason, but I thought the sets were like really creative, really moody and evocative, and just kind of really out there. How each death was so different and creepy. And I mean, Greta being fed was beyond gross to me, but still, I thought was really wild. So, and then just also, Robert himself, like staring into his face and just trying to imagine, okay, this is my child, and no matter what, I do love him, and especially, I mean, as a mother and as a nun, so I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Playing it was an awesome experience.
Yeah, Dan's killing was very ironic in my life. My now ex friend Dan fell asleep at the wheel while I was a passenger in the car, and we got into a very bad accident.
Oh my gosh! Oh no!
Yeah.
But he's okay. Neither of you. Well, obviously you didn't die.
Well, we both got pretty bad injuries. I was in a coma for 30 days.
Are you kidding? Oh my gosh! Wow.
It was pretty bad.
I know you're interviewing me, but when you were in a coma, because I've never talked to anyone who's been in a coma, did you hear stuff going on outside?
Kind of. I don't remember anything specific, but I just remember like laying there thinking, why am I not waking up?
Huh? Like one of those dreams where you can't make yourself wake up.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
It's 30 days. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, and
I'd love to interview you one day.
I woke up on my mom's birthday, and
oh wow, that must have been the most incredible gift.
It was, mom. Yeah, it was a profound experience, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be doing this podcast because I took
absolutely. Well,
I took my life for granted.
Kind of a test to not necessarily pulling the plug. Then I guess. I mean, you don't know.
Yeah.
You were young enough, I guess.
Yeah.
I think if somebody's like.
It's only 4 years ago.
4 years ago. Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty intense.
Yeah. What's the fan reaction like when you go to horror conventions?
Oh, people are great. Man, I love horror fans. They everyone's like just so cool, down to earth people, and they just appreciate all of us, and all the performers from all the series, which is really cool. We all get to sit together, the Living Dead and all the different shows, or whoever's at the convention, we get to meet each other, and even, Tippy Hedron was at once, and the Birds, and, a lot of people that are even older than myself, and, it's like the fans don't care. They love what they love, and they show their appreciation, and it keeps the energy of our work going. So, I think it's amazing. I mean, obviously, if it weren't for the fans, none of this would be happening. Because to me, all the shows that I've done, which, obviously I'm not like this, big A-list star or anything, but still, like the work that I've done, and especially stuff on stage, you do it and people love it, but then it's done, it's gone. But fans are what keep things forever alive, and for that I'm eternally grateful.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun, it's cool, and it just validates, like on days that everybody on the planet has crappy days, and you're like, oh man, but just knowing that something you did was made a difference in someone else's life is I think what we're all here for, whether it's literally, whether it's taking out the garbage, I mean, every job on the planet is vital. We all work together, and whoever, there's no such thing in my mind as a lowly job, because like if you're for example, the garbage man,
right?
God, imagine what our place would be like. I mean, New York certainly knows what it's like when the garbage men go on strike. Mm-hmm. We can't live without that. So every single job, whatever you do, is important, and it makes a difference. But not all jobs show that. Like, you don't get the recognition for it. So being, in the public eye is different, because you do get that that reminder that you made a difference. So I'm very, very grateful for that too.
Yeah, it's one of the great things about being an actor. You can make a difference in people's lives. You said you did the aforementioned matinee. You're like the only one in that whole cast I've heard of. Like, what was that like?
So, well, in Canada, actually, a couple of the actors in that are more famous than I am in Canada, in the Canadian film industry and such. But and in fact, actually, so let me think. So, matinee, the guy who plays my father was the smoking man in what's the thing with Scully and Mulder?
Oh, the X-Files.
X-Files. So, did you ever watch the X-Files?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so there's this guy called the Smoking Man, and he plays that with a pretty well-known role. And then the guy that played my in the movie theater in Matinee where I'm working, the theater owner, Don. Oh my God.
Oh, Don Davis. Yeah.
Don Davis.
I know who he is.
He also was in that movie. He also was in that TV series. He's like the general. He's the father in the Scully Mulder one. Oh, I'm terrible with names. Celebrity. But yeah, so there's quite a few. That's one of the things with Canadian actors is they're working all the time. They're in so many things. And they don't get the same recognition, but they do so much. I mean, they're constantly working. A girl that I worked with, actually, a friend of mine, Karen Conoval, we had the same agent in Vancouver, and we both had these little bit parts in a TV show ages ago called Christmas Comes to Willow Creek, and it was with the two guys from Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, yeah.
And I played the girlfriend of the blonde one. Schneider, I think his name was?
Yeah, John Schneider.
I played his girlfriend, and this girl, Karen Conoval, played a waitress. She had like a couple lines. Anyway, she's like a phenomenal actress. She plays Maurice, the orangutan, in the most recent 3 Planet 8 movies. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever seen those. They're fantastic. I love those. One of my favorite series.
I saw the Tim Burton one recently. Yeah.
Yeah. So, motion capture animation. They made her into orangutan, and she's this tiny little small-built girl, or woman, playing this huge orangutan. And she gets to play men and women and all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's a lot of fun. But yeah, so matinee. But yeah, that was sort of it was a fun kind of nod to a horror film. It wasn't bad. I thought it, especially for the low budget, I thought it was a kind of good film.
Mm-hmm. But what was it like having the lead in Quarantine?
Okay, having a lead role is, of course, pretty cool. It was really amazing.
Yeah.
And I got to run around carrying a gun. Here I am. Currently, I do a lot of volunteer work with Moms Demand Action Moms Demand Action for gun safety, and only because we're not trying to take guns away, but we just really the killing is just getting nuts.
Yep. And
there just has to be better laws to make sure that gun owners are keeping their guns safe, and responsibly, and that guns are removed from people when they're not in a good state of mind, because even my sister, most of my family around the world are gun owners, but my sister went through a really bad period of wanting to kill herself, and fortunately in Canada they're allowed to they have the red flag lock, and people can call the police, and so the RCMP came and took away all her guns. Mm-hmm. And I would not have my sister alive if that hadn't happened, because guns are final. Anyway, so but I know I kind of diversed there, but because
okay.
It was my point being that even though I'm very concerned with gun violence in the U.S., I got to carry a gun around as the character, and I had to learn some shooting techniques in order to hold the gun realistically, and it was really, really cool. And I got to be the hero in the movie, like I'm like this cool character kind of. It was a difficult film, a difficult character to play. The director and I were kind of at odds as to how she was supposed to be, and I was a little too artsy and egotistical. I should have just listened to the director. He wanted her to be more like a classic action hero.
Yeah.
But like, he wanted her to be in this little sexy get-up, and actually at the time I could have really pulled it off because I actually had a body at the time, but I didn't want to. I was like, it's unrealistic. Why would she wear a sexy outfit? She's trying to save her father. She'd be in men's clothes, whatever she could scrounge off the streets. And I was kind of like in that mode, so we were always at conflict. So as a result, it's not a great performance. If you ever did see it, my character is kind of, I don't know, it's just not a really well, I didn't do a good job, I'll say, because I was in conflict with the director, so it never really got its full thing, but it was still amazing to play the lead role and to be able to be in so many scenes and to carry through the film and work with actors that I really, really admire. And I got to ride a horse and carry a gun. I mean, come on, it was really, really cool.
I can imagine.
Not a great film, unfortunately.
Type of movie.
Right.
So do you have any upcoming convention appearances you want to plug?
At the time, no. And Mr. Mikey Perez, my convention booking agent dear, has really kind of left us East Coast actors in the lurch for quite a while. He really hasn't been plugging us, so I don't know. I don't know if there's any other agents on the East Coast that want to get stuff for myself and Erica and the few of us that are on the East Coast. But no, I do not at the current time have anything. And I certainly don't have time myself to be plugging anything, but I'm working on a few projects, nothing to do with this. But yes, I would love to. I also want to do some international ones, which I haven't done yet. That would be awesome.
Oh, like Canada and England, places like that?
Yeah, England, and there was one in Australia. Oh, my God. Anyway. But, no, I do. I love conventions. It's just so much fun. What's not to love about it, Meeting fans and meeting, your fellow actors you don't get to see, except at these things. We just always have a blast.
Wow.
It's a pleasure, hearing the stories from the fans and seeing the different costumes and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a much better attitude I've heard from somebody who's an actor. There's some people I've met. They're just like, I just do it for the money, But you genuinely sound like you do it for the fans.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's great fun, and like I said, whatever your job is, if you're a waitress, and you. I do want to say one thing in terms of jobs, and I know we don't always, of course, in life we don't have the option to quit if we hate our job. But if at all possible, if you're not in that dire situation where you absolutely have to stick with that one job, I think in life, if we don't like what we're doing, as best as you can, try to find, even if it's in the exact same industry, like say if you're a waitress and you hate your boss, you hate the coworkers, try to find another place, because if we're not happy, we can't make anyone else happy. But, whether it's a bus driver or a cashier or a nurse or a waitress, what a difference it makes in your life when you go to somebody and they're like, hi, honey, what can I get for you? And they smile. It can make a bad person's day so wonderful. But on the other hand, if you're a waitress and you hate your job and you just go, what do you want? It can really make a downer for the person that comes to you. So, I think attitude is so important in life. And if whatever your job is, try to be happy in it. And if you can't, because you have creepy coworkers or you just, get paid crap and whatever, find a way to find some joy in it. Appreciate that you are making a living off of it, or try to find another job and quit. Because I did that when I was an actor, as I told you, in Los Angeles. I had to do all kinds of other work as well. Like I said, I did house cleaning. I cooked for people. I cleaned toilets. I waitressed. I did all kinds of stuff. And but I always told myself, the day that I can't look my customers in the face with a smile, I quit that job. And I did. I worked at a Vons in Los Angeles, and I worked until. And, I'd smile at my customers, and I was all friendly, but after a while, it just got so tedious, and it was just boring because I wasn't learning, I think, anything new. Yeah. Once I learned all the produce codes and stuff like that, the challenge went out of it, and when I noticed myself not even looking in the eye of my customers, I quit and got another job. I think I started cooking for families or something like that, because, we've only got this go-around in our life. I believe in reincarnation, so we get lots of go-arounds, but in any case, but this this life you only have once, and, it's not long enough to stay with something that keeps you miserable, whether it's a relationship or a job. Find a way to get out and find another alternative. And in those times when we just can't, because of financial difficulty, we have to stick with a job, then try to always focus on what is good in it, that at least is putting food on my baby's table, and, I don't know, find something that you enjoy when you get home, whether it's a nice foot bath, a little glass of wine.
Ooh, I love that. Beautifully said, Beatrice.
So.
Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been amazing.
Oh, thank you so much, too, for being patient with me, as it took me a while to get back in touch.
Of course.
But I appreciate it. It's been fun. And one day I do want to hear about your coma experience, or you should write an essay about just what it was like, I guess, after, because you probably don't remember much of what it was like while you were in it. But I'd be very curious to know, because that's something we don't know, right? None of us know what's going on in their minds, or is anything going on in their minds when they're in a coma.
Oh, absolutely. One day, the story will be out in the public. My mom is working on a book
Cool.
about my journey and stuff.
Wow, good.
I could message you on Facebook my cell number, and I could tell you about the whole accident sometime.
Okay, great. Oh, and also one thing, if there are any fans, especially Facebook fans listening, I have gotten a lot of requests from people for autographs and photos and such, which I do have, and I would love to sell or whatever, not crazy prices or anything, but it'd be nice to get at least the cost of the photo and postage and all that back. Mm-hmm. But I just, obviously I can't give out, I don't want to be, although probably people can find it anyway, but I don't, for reasons and such, I can't give out my home number, and right now, because I no longer have that agent working for me in those areas, I'm trying to figure out a way to set up a website or something, and once I do, people will be able to get my autograph there. So just be on the lookout. I'll announce it on Facebook when I have something set up.
Wonderful, and hopefully Mikey will book you in California one day.
Yeah, he's just got to get plugged. I mean, they respond to fan requests, pretty well. So
yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Beatrice, and you have yourself a wonderful day.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Beatrice Boepple. Ain't she a sweetheart? Yes, she is. Great stories, great insight, smart lady, wonderful lady. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes.